Today on The Dead Life, I'll be answering your questions. I get so many questions, so thank you for calling in. Think of me as a resource for your spiritual needs. I'm here to help you to navigate your path. I'm a friend with unique insight into the realm, so let's get going. If you want to leave me a message that might be shared on a future episode of The Dead Life in my Love Me Not segment, or you have a question about a psychic experience you've had, leave it at 802-DEAD-811. That's 802-332-3811. You can follow me on Instagram at Medium Allison, on my Facebook fan page, and you can binge on my YouTube videos to watch readings, including episodes of The Dead Life. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hi, Allison. My name is Stacy, and I'm from Kansas City. I love listening to your podcast, and thank you for all you do. I have two questions. My first question relates to time. I understand time is different in heaven, but I was wondering, what do our loved ones do all day? Do they rest at night or sleep at night? My other question is, I know you've talked about our loved ones being around us when we're thinking of them and that they're looking out for us. I wanted to know, how do I know when I've received a sign from my parents who've passed away versus when it's just me having wishful thinking and hoping that what I see is a sign? Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
I'm going to start with the signs first.
Good, because that's a good question.
Okay. So the difference is when it's wishful thinking, that's an operation of your mind, and it's up here. Like it's intellectual, and you can feel the difference between that and right here when it's on a soul level. So when you see a sign and something deep inside of your soul says, that's dad or that's mom, that's a sign. So the difference is one calls for you to think about it, process it, and make it into something more than it is. And that's where you're searching for something. An actual sign resonates in your soul where it's a sense of knowing that it's them. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And what do you think about coincidences? Are there coincidences? Or if you're just trying to make it up, if you have too many excuses why it's a coincidence, then maybe it's not a coincidence.
It's so funny about the living. We get so caught up in our heads, and we let that knowledge or that part of ourselves, our mind, override any sense that we have that's there on a soul level, which is what we come in with before we learn how to, look at, be critical thinkers, or, put that much thought into anything, which is why children are so much easier. They know when grandma's in their room. They know when their dad's around, and they say it as a matter of fact, knowing.
Oh, yeah.
But with adults, we get twisted in our minds and make it all convoluted and complicated. We're very good at it. Very good at it. So with actual signs, like I said, it's not something that you have to process in your head. It's a sense of knowing in your soul, deep inside of you, that is them. So you have to learn and actually teach yourself how to put your head aside, in a sense, and go with that sense of knowing, because that's our soulful nature, is to go with the sense of knowing. The part of us that's not soulful is the intellectual side, that tries to take over it with theories and probabilities.
Well, and I think there has to be a certain amount of self-doubt too, in that.
People's self-doubt actually is one of the big roadblocks for them. And if you're looking for proof, even if somebody had them manifest themselves in a dream, which they'll do, because they're like, I need to see them to know for sure. So what do? They put the energy into connecting with us in a dream. And then we wake up and we process it through our head and say, but what if it wasn't them? They get so frustrated with us. We tell them what we need. And what we're really saying is, I want them to come back in human form and be part of my life again. And then I'll believe it. They can't do that. So
Right.
people need to get over that hurdle and recognize what they can do. And if that's not enough for you, then nothing will ever be enough proof. Like no proof exists for you.
Right. And then there's also the extra layer that emotionally, if the parent does come through, then they know the parent can see how they're living their life now. And sometimes through a whole lifetime of relationship, people have their hangups with their parents. And
Right.
and then to have to face them again, something they never resolved. It's
Yeah.
like once you resolve that, then you'll see them every night.
Yeah.
But before you do that, it's going to be painful.
I do get those readings, and I had one last week where I'm giving the messages from the mother, and I thought they were good messages. And I could tell that she wasn't the warmest person in life, but that she really wanted her son to find happiness in this world and stop allowing the limitations they put on him to hold him back. So she's conveying these messages to try and get him to go with his heart. So at some point he actually said, I'm really mad at both of my parents. You know, they weren't there for me. Why should I listen to them now? And it turned into that human child anger of why should I listen to them now? Well, why did you book an appointment? Because you booked an appointment to hear what they had to say, and now you're judging it. And although by the end of the reading, he took it in and it healed something in him and it made him feel better, which is the whole point of a reading. We come in with these hyperbolic emotions that are tied to our past and our memories. And we allow our childhood to dictate our entire lives. And if we can't forgive them after they've died, maybe you'll never get to that point. But I know that's not even true because I see them cross, and all of a sudden the energy of the parent that wasn't there is the energy we needed it to be in this lifetime. And there's a sincere, warm feeling of all-encompassing love and apology. So the forgiveness becomes immediate and does something that we weren't able to do in the physical world to get to that place with them. And it was partially their fault because, you know, parents are humans and very flawed and made decisions that sometimes they even on their deathbed will take with them. They're like standing on their hill, you know, I'm going to die on the hill and this is what I believe. But once they cross, they see the damage they did to a child or the ramifications of the decisions and the moments that they hurt people. And they're able to feel what they caused that person to experience, and then they understand. So as far as people that get caught in their head and go down that rabbit hole of, you know, they're not saying what I wanted them to say, you're not ready for a reading if your head's in that place. Like you're just not. But as far as signs go, it's a very deep part of ourselves that's not measurable by a ruler or depth. It's a soul center in us, and that's where they talk to us through that place. And when we're unreachable, they go through children or they go through somebody else in our life to try and reach us because we're not reachable. And often I'll have those people say, but I need to hear from them. It's like, okay, everything's I. We've got to find an in-between place where you could have a meeting of the souls, you know, and really come together. So there's a lot of different variables in this process. With signs, I've always known when my dad sent me a sign. I think you do too with your dad, and it makes us smile, and it's a deep feeling of thanks, Dad. You know, we'll even say thanks, Dad, you know, for being there and letting us know on this day that you're there.
Right.
And I just find that so much healthier than getting caught up in trying to measure it on your intellectual level and the bar that you create for yourself that you want them to, you know, to exceed, or the hoops you want them to jump through. That it's going to take you longer to have communication if that's going to be your process.
Sure.
She also asked, what do loved ones do all day? So I will say this. I'm a Moon in Taurus. Shout out to all my Moon in Taurus brothers and sisters out there. We love our naps. We love our bedding. We love our naps. We love our food, but very much so naps. On the other side, I rarely see them laying down and sleeping because we have unending energy after we pass. We're just sort of a soul on steroids. Like we're all encompassing. We have that energy. They have too many places to be, too many people to be around, both living and dead, to really need to spend their energy sleeping. They're not in the physical world. They don't need that. Now, I do see when husbands or wives die where they will show themselves laying next to their spouse in the bed still and listening to your thoughts and saying, stay on your side of the bed. And they sort of are needling you and laughing about it. But they're not sleeping. They're listening to your thoughts. So there's little things that they say that sort of indicates that they don't sleep. They just connect. And they continually connect and grow and connect and grow and intervene for people and buffer people and show up for us. So that's what they're doing. So what do they do? If they love fishing, they're fishing. If they're military and there was a bar with and I see this often, with a jukebox and a pool table, and every time one of their buddies that they went to war with dies, he walks through the door and a little bit of sunlight comes in and they're like, hey, where the hell have you been? Where's your ugly mug bid? And they're all, hey, and they hug each other and sit down and have a beer and a burger. So it just depends on what your versions of heaven were. So for her, whatever her mom and dad's versions of heaven were, including their own childhoods, where they lost a brother, say, a long time ago that they miss. They get to relive those memories, and they're together, so they can relive the memories, but they can also share moments presently with those people at different ages that they were. So I think there's plenty to do all day long. The funny thing is, why doesn't the living ask themselves, what can I do today? The living needs to be looking at how they spend their time, because we're the biggest wasters of time. People who pass don't waste any time or energy. They do everything and are everything. And we limit ourselves so beyond what we are capable of doing. It's incredible.
That's very interesting that you put it that way. I have never heard it that way before, but it's true. We have a limited number of days on this planet. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
And after people die, who knows? They might have unlimited numbers and they don't waste them.
Right.
Yet we might wake up one day and be just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Not do anything or waste our time doing something just pointless.
I think that a lot of people are going to look back at how much time they spent on social media and realize how much of their life they actually wasted. And I've been guilty of watching cute cat videos or, the bride and the father moment where I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful,
Yeah.
But I find myself acutely aware that I'm wasting my time and I'll stop myself. Right. So I do very little to where my phone yells at me and says, you only spent this much screen time this week. And I'm like, good. So I know there's going to be a lot of people that wish they had enjoyed Paris instead of being just an influencer and recording themselves the whole time and not really enjoying what they were doing, but acting like they were enjoying what they were doing. Sure. So we live in sort of a false world right now where we're trying to figure out what's real and what matters, what's authentic. And I do hope that my listeners that are listening, your little kids, rent that snow cone machine and make snow cones with them in the summer. Be that parent, that gets in the swimming pool with them, and take a ton of pictures, not for your friends, but for your children in the future that will be so happy to have that image of you when you're older. They're looking back on you younger going, oh my God, Mom, you were so pretty. And it's worth hearing, and that they're knowing and recognizing how much time you spent with them. Because if I don't remember that moment with my mom in that picture, she must have spent a lot more moments with me than I know or that I realize. And it becomes very important to them. So focus on what matters. People are getting a little materialistic in this day and age and hung up on the money. Money's nice. Don't get me wrong. We all like nice things. It's just you got to weigh and what's important and determine what your values are this year in this 8 year of transformation. We're supposed to be setting our values and recognizing what our priorities are and getting those in order. Where do we want to live? Who do we want to be with? What friends are we getting rid of? Like, that's this year. And next year's a 9-year, 2025. You add up all the numbers, totals 9. It's a year of endings. Years of endings can be great in that they can end addictions and relationships that don't serve you and jobs where you're not supposed to be there. It can bring a very quick end to that. It also can end lives. You'll see people fall off that were barely hanging on. So I often in readings will bring someone through that'll bring up, say, let's give the name, Jake. And they'll say, you need to call Uncle Jake. And they'll be like, oh yeah, he's been sick. I was going to go see him next year. And I'm like, no, call him now. That's what your mom's saying, trying to prevent those regrets. So the living also need to learn how to stop pushing things off. If you get a feeling that you need to spend time with someone in your family, just do it. The other side's trying to give you a warning, and we're really good at pushing that away. So it's about shutting down all the noise around us and being able to live a better life, which is everything that the dead have been trying to teach me in my journey, and I then try and pass on. So don't worry about what the dead are doing. They're right where they're supposed to be. Worry about yourself and the living that you love and make that your focus. Don't try and take on the entire world. Just worry about your backyard and enjoy life. So there, Stacy, I hope that answers your question. Let's move on to the next.
Hi, Allison. I'm Peggy from Valencia. I lost my husband in 2020, and you did a beautiful reading for me, about 6 or 7 months after he passed. It really put my mind at ease. But my question is this. I have lost quite a few family members, and we were all on wonderful terms when they passed, but I never dream about them. And I've only had a handful of dreams about my husband, and I'm wondering, what is wrong with me? What can we do to open our brains so that we can dream about our people who have gone on? Or is it meditation during the day? I try and clear my head at night before I go to sleep. I just don't know, is it me or is it them? Are they just too busy? Anyhow, thank you so much, Allison. I really enjoy your show, and I feel very blessed that I got a beautiful reading from you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, first of all, thank you, Peggy, and I'm really glad that I got to read you and bring your husband through. I'm sure I enjoyed it as well. I'm very lucky to do what I do. So she's able to have dreams about family members, but only a handful of dreams about her husband. He died in 2020. I'll say that was a particularly traumatic year to lose someone. Anyone that lost someone that year, as we did, knows that it was very traumatic, not just the loss, but not being able to be with them because of shutdown and the pandemic and, people not going to funerals. We went to funerals anyways. I wasn't going to not do that and then regret it later because I know how that works. I'm like, I'll take the chance. I'll take that risk. So it really left people scarred with the deaths in 2020 in particular, I will say. So she may have a little of that energy going on in her where there was unfinished business. Maybe she didn't get to give him the funeral that she would have liked to, or that she thinks maybe he wanted. Maybe she didn't get to spend the time with him that she would have wanted to, or have access to some of the health care she would have liked to have had. Will that make a difference for him? I mean, a lot of people have questions about this. Would they have died? Or could things have been easier on them at the very least? The handful of dreams that she's had about her husband could have a little of that tied into it, but also he's only been gone for 4 years, and that's not that long. It does depend on the relationship between the husband and wife. Peggy sounds great. Love her energy, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Husbands and wives, I've brought through people who the wife just wanted to make sure he was dead. Just wanted to make sure he went where he belonged, like really angry scenarios, which is sort of rare, but I've had those. So you'll get that wife. I mean, we're all called wives, you know, and then you'll get the wife who he was the love of her life and she absolutely died on the inside and she has yet to rejoin the living. So it's hard to gauge where Peggy is in that spectrum of grief in love. Because when you didn't really love them anymore and they die, I've seen women move on 6 months later and marry one of their friends. You know, I don't understand it. I'm not judging, but I'm saying not mortally wounded by the passing. Then you get somebody who, I've had a couple of these and I just love them, but they get a smile on their face and they say, no, I've had more than I deserve. I had his love. I had a life with him. And if I never have dinner with any company for me ever again, I had it with him my whole life and that's all I need. And they're just completely satisfied with the love they have, and it's their soulmate. It's their other half. So they're just sort of, I don't care if I die because I'll be with him again, which doesn't throw me when people say that. I'm like, I get it. I get it. Because, you know, when that one person in the whole world that you want to be with is absent in the physical sense, it makes it really hard for anybody to attempt to make happy memories knowing it's going to fall short of anything you could have done with him. So I understand that for the people that are left behind. And so for Peggy, with her husband having died, I think it's just going to be a matter of time. I think as the years start passing, her energy is going to get lighter and he's going to be able to come through more easily. He probably also had a lot of connecting with his family and friends to do and understanding of the difference his life made in other people's experiences in this world, in this lifetime. And so he's doing things as well. If there was no trauma around his passing, they try a lot less hard to come through because they know that it was expected. They know they got to say goodbye to you. They understand that the family and their friends know how they feel about them. And so there's not the urgency to come through. They know you're going through a normal healing process. And there's nothing that they need to say in order to heal you because this is something you have to do on your own. And they didn't leave you with trauma. You're sad and you're going through grief. So they energetically come through like lightning when there's trauma involved because they need you to know it was accidental and not suicide, or they need you to know that it was an out-of-body experience and when they were being murdered, for instance, that they didn't feel it, that there was a numbness in them. They need you to know details so that your soul isn't in tatters. It's a different healing process when you grieve somebody who lived out a life and died of some sort of a terrible disease, not minimizing that, but where there was warning, as opposed to somebody who died from a shotgun blast out of the blue that was healthy. It's just very different energies and incentives for them to come through.
So you're saying it's a difference if they have unfinished business rather than if the living has unfinished business.
Well, they already know what unfinished business we would have. They know the living wants them to come back to life. They know they can't do that. They know how much interaction they can have with us without it assisting in them dying with us. You know, if we die on the inside, it's as if we died with them and climbed into the casket and got buried. They don't want that. They'll pull their energy back to force us to heal, to force us to engage with family and friends in the living. So I do see them pull their energy back for that reason if you're not healing and not putting the work in to evolve and to evolve through it. Because the only way you can get close to them again is by evolving through it. The pain, the trauma, the grief. And again, not everybody has trauma. There's sadness, but no trauma. My great-grandfather died of intestinal cancer. It made me very sad. Nobody took his life. And he was in his 80s, early 80s, I believe. Hope I got that right. And so there was no trauma. My great-grandmother, was she sad because she'd been with him her entire life? Yeah, she was gutted. She was devastated, but there's nothing to fix there. There's nothing that somebody did to him.
Right.
It's a different energy. So as far as her husband goes, she's only having a handful of dreams because he's saying, I'm well, I look vibrant, I'm whole, I'm good. Don't worry about me. We're going to be together again. And then if we go back into a dark place and we're like, oh, I need that. I need it again. And we're coming at it from desperation. It's harder for them to come through. I know that sounds unfair, but it's the shift in our energy of enlightenment and recognizing that they're still part of our soul and part of our life, that they're here, and acknowledging that and really believing it and feeling it and trusting them that they wouldn't leave us, that makes it easier for them to communicate.
Makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Hi, Allison. My name is Sheila. Several years ago, after I had read your books, which were massively helpful, as I was dealing with grief over the loss of my mother, I was fortunate enough to have a personal reading with you, which was incredibly validating and healing for my soul, first of all. And I recently heard you reference that you were going to have Karen Estes on about dreams. Ever since that time in my life, I've had more and more dreams that have been increasingly vivid. Two of them I felt compelled to call in about. In the first dream, I saw an outstretched index finger with a small pearl. It was a masculine finger, definitely, and it was as if it was being extended towards me, like the pearl was being offered, and I could not make any sense of it. In the second dream, I saw an all-white board, literally like a whiteboard that you would draw on, and slowly the number 888, comma, 888 was written on that board as if by an invisible hand. I did not see a pen. I didn't see a hand. I simply saw that complete number being written very deliberately. And again, I had no clue. I tried to do some online research and look up by chance the meaning, but those are two of many dreams that I've had that I struggle with understanding or interpreting. So if I get selected, this would be wonderful. If I don't, again, my heartfelt thanks to you for the peace that you've brought to me since the loss of my loved ones. God bless you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Okay, how sweet is she?
Oh, I know.
Sheila,
Wonderful.
This one's for you, girl. This is going out to Sheila. So I'm so happy that my books helped. And yes, Taryn Estes, it was so interesting having her on for dream interpretation. This is how I interpret. This is how I processed it through me and the answer I got.
Right.
So Sheila was shown a man's finger with a pearl offered to her in the dream. He was extending it out to her. And then 888, 888. Okay, first of all, 8 is the number of life. We know this. It can also be transformation. And to me, this dream is either going to be, it's usually a grandfather or a father, like somebody connected to you, offering her the best in life, saying to her, I'm offering this to you. It's there for you. You just have to take it. So I see the pearl is everything good in life that he's trying to get her to reach out for. And the series of 8s, and I know there's some numerologists out there that will read way more into it, and that's fine. I'd love to hear it. But I take 8 as life and transformation. So to me, he's trying to get her to change something about her life and reach for the better life. That's how that was my sense. So thoughts?
I was with her. I was a bit confounded. I mean, a pearl, that's actually absolutely, I mean, a gift. That's a beautiful thing. It's precious, smooth. It's natural.
Yeah.
It's, so many things like that. And then all the 8s, rather than adding up, because some people
we'll add them all up.
Add them all up. And I don't think that was the case. I think they were all 8s, meaning it's all 8s.
I think that would, end up being like a 3, even if you went down that road, which would be Gemini, which is sort of higher thinker and like evaluate your life. So even if you did that and broke down the 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, added them all up and broke it down.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a 3.
Is it?
It is, because 3 8s is 24,
right.
And another 3 8s is 24. So together they're 48.
Right.
4 plus 8 is 12. 2 plus 1 is 3.
Yeah,
Ta-da!
it's a 3. You are a brilliant mathematician.
And don't you ever forget it. So no matter which way you look at it, I really feel as though this man is saying to her, you have another option. You have other things you can be doing right now. Look within, think about your life and what you want from it in this moment, in the now, in this lifetime, and do that. I'm offering it to you. It's there for you. You have to reach out and take it. Mm-hmm. That's how I read it. So,
all right, I would go with that.
All right, Sheila. Well, I hope that helped. So, thank you to my husband, Joe DuBois, for sharing his perspective. That was fun. And I know we went a bit long, so we'll probably be splitting this into 2 episodes so that you don't get overwhelmed by the amount of information. And it's summer and people are just laying by the beach and by their pool and stuff anyways, and we want to keep it light and easy. So, and thank you to my listeners for tuning in. Joe, you'll be back soon, no doubt. Love having you in my house. Thank you for tuning in. You can catch me next Tuesday for a fresh episode of The Dead Life. I'm Allison DuBois. This is The Dead Life. And to all of my believers out there, don't stop believing.